So if let's say I'm here, right? Neutral is going to be here because I need room to go into pronation and supination, right? So neutral is going to be pen is straight up, okay? The axis is going to be so if you're looking at your hand, the middle of your hand is what? Which finger?
Third medical.
Your third met, right? So the axis is going to be, it can be at your met head or it can be in the middle of your proximal phalanx, right? So with pronation supination, you can line it up with the met head and go parallel to the pen, or you can actually line it up with the pen and be right in the middle of the phalanx. So if I go into pronation, then the stationary arm, it can be up or it can be down. Just make sure that it's perpendicular, right, to the surface, right, to the floor. So you can read it starting from up here and go into pronation, or you can read it from down here and go into pronation. It's the same exact thing, okay? So let's say we started up, right? So our axis is going to be the met head or the middle, right, of the proximal phalanx. So that, go ahead and hold that for me, Renee. So if I go into pronation, right, go ahead and move the movement arm. All you have to do is line it up with the pen if you're starting in the middle,
Okay.
right? So line it up with the pen, and that's how much pronation I have.
Just like that?
Yeah. So what number do we have?
So we're reading this one right here.
Yes.
So it's like 68.
Right, okay? So with the same thing, you can also line it up with the met head, okay? But if you line it up with the met head, if I go into pronation, you have to keep the axis on the met head, and your moving arm is going to be, it's not going to line up with this, it's going to be parallel to the pen,
Okay.
right? So go ahead and move the movement arm. It's going to be parallel, right? So it can't physically line up, so you just have to eyeball it.
That's weird.
So just like parallel to the knuckles like this. You want it to come off. Because here's the pen, you want it to come like right here, the line. So it's parallel to the pen.
So
like right here, see how it's, the line is going straight through
Oh,
all his
the
knuckles?
line,
Yeah,
okay.
you want the line to go straight through his knuckle.
Yeah.
okay. So just like that?
Yeah. And it's in the same general vicinity. But if it's easier for you to line it up directly with the pen, line it up directly with the pen. But you just have to make sure that your axis is on the third, right? Because the third is the middle finger. Right? So it has to, remember how I said it has to bisect something, right? So it's bisecting the hand in the middle. Right? Same thing for the foot. If you're going to inversion, eversion, which toe is it going to bisect?
The middle toe?
The middle toe, right? So your third. So it's the same thing for everything. Okay? So pronation, supination. So this is considered neutral. Now have me go into supination.
Okay. So then I'm just lining it right over here.
So you can line it up with that one, or you can physically just go and line it up
With the pen.
with the pen there.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So then I would go into supination, right? So if I go into supination, you want to make sure that your stationary arm doesn't move when I move, right? So your stationary arm doesn't move. Now physically, make sure you line up with the third, right? And then line up with the pen, yeah.
So like that?
Yeah. And the number reads,
89? 88?
yeah,
That's fine.
perfect.
Okay.
So I tell people all the time, because they get kind of hung up and they think, all right, well, this axis has to stay on the body part and I can't move it, and this has to make sure, I have to make sure that I don't move, and this has to follow this. You can literally, so go ahead and go into pronation, right? So let's say she goes into pronation and her knuckle moves. You can take it off and reposition it. Like there's nothing that says you can't reposition it. You just want to make sure that your axis is back on the correct axis when it was when it started, right? So it happens all the time with the shoulder, right? If I'm doing flexion, if I'm doing shoulder, so we start at the acromion, right? And if I'm going into flexion, the axis moves, right? It goes down and posterior. So you can actually realign it. Just make sure that you find that axis again, realign it, find your stationary and your moving arm, and then read the number, right? A lot of people get mixed up because the joint moves and they read it and they go, oh God, what does it read? That's not right, because normal is around 160 to 180 degrees of shoulder flexion. That's not right. But you can reposition it and, okay, well, that's where it is now, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with pronation, supination. Because naturally when I go into pronation, it's going to move, or if I go into supination, it's going to move, right? Because my knuckles move this way,
Yeah.
right? So you can just reposition it. Just make sure that your positioning is where it was when it initially started.
Okay.
Or you can just have them go into it and then.
Perfect, that too.
Oh, you can just have them start at formation? Like they'll
Before
just-
you even put the gun.
Yeah,
in
so
the
you can,
jar.
so make sure
And
you,
then do it.
well, if you're doing that, you want to make sure that their neutral is actually 0,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because if their starting
Right
position
there.
isn't 0, then
Yeah.
you
So
don't
then
know
I-
how much they went into it, right?
Mhm.
So make sure that it's 0. Okay, that's 0. Okay, so you're neutral. Have them go, reposition, and then that's the reading, right? Okay. So you guys want to start